serves the greater Waco community by creating a thriving culture of entrepreneurship designed with an inclusion mindset, champions entrepreneurs of all backgrounds in breaking down traditional barriers, collaborating with like-minded institutions, and filling gaps. And you may have seen earlier today, Startup Waco has begun what is an NIL program launched by they're basically an established organization. And now in studio, Jon Passavant, the CEO of Startup Waco, joins us in studio at 365 Sports. So how did this happen? What NIL is everywhere, but how does this begin?
Thanks for the question. It's great to be with you guys. Thank you for having me over, first of all. So we exist, our organization exists to serve all the entrepreneurs in Waco, McLennan County. And so we were just all sitting around talking almost a year ago and thinking about, gosh, if we're serving all the entrepreneurs around here, now with NIL and what we're seeing develop, and back then it was just developing, why wouldn't we engage student athletes as well? What would be the barriers to that? What would be the advantages to that? How could we help? And so we began developing the program, and it eventually took shape until where we are today.
Was there anything that you wanted to do even earlier? Because, I mean, the NIL, we know it's been like I don't hate to say forest fire because there's places that are having problems with that, but it's been like fire ants. It's just taken off.
Yeah. No, it's everywhere, and we knew that it would. It honestly even surprised me a little bit how quick it kind of went from 0 to 100 so fast, and all the things that were stepping up. We intentionally didn't rush it. We were here long before NIL. We'll be here long after NIL. This is one piece of what we do. And so we wanted to do it right. We wanted to take an approach that was thoughtful, that we felt was in the best interest of the student athletes and also the Waco business community. So yeah, we would have liked to have done it sooner. You always do want to be a first mover, but I think I'm proud of the way we were diligent in concepting it and laying it out, so when we're ready to go.
So let's just say theoretically I'm a student athlete and I come to you interested in something, or a business comes to me wanting to partner with a student athlete. So how does it work from you guys about what goes where and how everybody benefits?
Yeah, so, this exchange operates, and our organization operates to support the student athletes. So we're not agents, we're not finding them deals, but we also work with lots of organizations and businesses throughout the city. So if a city came to us and said, hey, I'd love to work with student athletes, we can chat with them and say, okay, here are some possibilities. I mean, there's almost limitless options and ways that students can work with businesses now. And so we want to try to find something that is going to be beneficial for the student athlete and beneficial for the business. So we're not brokering the deals or pulling together. Basically, our member network and the businesses that we work with, we're going to try to find ways that are mutually beneficial. If a student athlete comes to us and says, hey, how do I figure this NIL thing out? We would give them best practices based of them as a business person. It's just getting money or getting paid for something is just the first step in the process. If you're an entrepreneur, you know that. You've got to understand finances. You've got to understand wealth management. You've got to understand marketing and personal brand management. So these are services that we do, and we're already doing them in the community for entrepreneurs. Whether you're a bakery or you're you have a new tech startup, or you're a student athlete, you've got a business, a brand, something that you're now promoting and you're trying to optimize and ultimately monetize in the best way.
How much do you find that younger people kind of already have a grasp of what direction they'd like to go, and then those who kind of loosely know that they want to do something, but they're just not exactly sure what avenue or where to go?
That's a great question. I would put it kind of on par with the community entrepreneurs that we work with already. You'd be surprised. Some folks come in with just a general idea. I'd like to do X, or to start this, or do something, and they don't really know much beyond that. Some of the best ideas are just those tiny little kernels of is this possible? Could this work? I think it could. It's a pain point that they feel, but they have no business management or structure skills or anything, so we can help with that. With student athletes the same way. We've already, with student athletes that we've worked with, have done everything from clothing brands to apps, consumer apps. I mean, everything. So it's kind of all over the map. I think a lot of times with student athletes, that the time is just so constrained. I mean, right now they're not even in season, and it is just full on, especially in basketball and football. And so when you add in academics to that coming up, it's just, time is going to be a real issue. And so they're going to have their kind of team set up to say, okay, if I want to advance this business, how am I going to do it effectively?
How does your experience, in your opinion, apply to athletes and maybe just NIL in general?
Yeah, well, so personally, my story coming, kind of how I got to Waco was from Pennsylvania via New York City. And when I was 22 years old, got into the fashion world. Totally different than sports, but similar in the sense of you're young, you excel and sort of quickly get to the top of the field, and you can be earning lots of money and have lots of people around you. You're all of a sudden thrown into a world of contracts and negotiations and business managers and exclusive rights, and how do you price things, and how do you know what's a good deal and what isn't, and who do you trust. And so I personally went through that a little bit, and so made some good decisions, made a lot of really, really bad decisions. So when I first learned about this, in the middle of last year, it was my thought personally went immediately to, gosh, they're going to need some help. Every kid coming into some situation like this needs some help understanding how to structure this and do it in a way that's effective for them. And so that was a personal kind of draw in for me. But then when I realized that, look, it's not just about NIL and selling image rights, but it's also potentially about entrepreneurship. I mean, the way I look at it from our organization's perspective, we've got 550 potential entrepreneurs that are just working right across the river there. And if they have that desire and want to engage and see what's possible, that's where hopefully we can step in and help.
Where is the money? Who do you have people already secured to be a part of this? Because the NIL is about name, image, likeness, and also taking advantage of who you are, and then also earning that money as a student athlete.
Yeah, so we've done our best, and we have counsel that's been working with us and understanding the changing rules, and I'm sure you guys are up on it, and how this affects the way a program develops is something that you guys would be the experts on, and understanding that how this is going to shift the dynamics there. But from our perspective, there are donors that just want to see the program be able to compete in this space. This is a reality, whether we like it or not, whether it's positive or not. And so I see this as one of, and just to be clear, this is our thing. There might be other initiatives, other things that stand up that Baylor puts together, other groups put together that want to help also, and that's great. This is just our expertise, and so we wanted to do something. So as a nonprofit, there's donors that want to come in and they want to say, hey, we want to help this happen. And now it's great that you can actually not just sort of give money to student athletes, but actually put it through a program of student athlete development where, yes, they're able to receive funds for their work, but it's also being able to be something that hopefully lays something for the future for them.
Have you had any experience with Baylor beforehand?
Personally?
Yeah, no, not you, but the company as far as this business.
Sure. So Startup Waco is a public-private organization. So we're made up of constituents from all different facets of the Waco community, from the business community, the nonprofit community, the higher ed community. So we've got representatives that we work with all over the business school. We do a lot with them. We do a lot with student entrepreneurs there. And so, we've got some experience in working there. Never before with athletics. This was a new venture for us, but it wasn't really, it's something that's kind of more tied into the business community in Waco than it really is in athletics. We want to take what we're doing here and apply it to student athletes, not just, it's a totally unique thing than kind of how we're working with the programs themselves and other schools.
How much did that time that you've spent, because again, you could have just a year ago been like, yeah, we're doing it, and then we'll figure it out as we go, but figured out beforehand, before you announced all this, allowed you to build what would be good, valuable stuff for everybody, as opposed to this kid's going to get money and, say he did it for Habitat for Humanity and move on. Yeah.
No, that's a great question. And I think, a lot of value for taking our time. I think if you just think of money coming through, it's very single dimensional. One thing happens, this happens, and that's it. We wanted to take a multi-dimensional approach that wasn't just about funds. It wasn't just about NIL, but it was about the student athletes first. It kind of put them in the center of this crosshairs of development and opportunity. And so we think that can happen here in Waco. We think it's a good thing for Waco and ultimately a good thing for Baylor if we can get some of these success stories coming through of successful businesses coming out of a program like this. If we had just kind of rushed it, if we had just jumped in and tried to play that game, I think it maybe could have been effective, but it would have been short-lived. It would have been a flash, sort of a flash in the pan. We want to create something enduring. We want to create something that can actually be a legacy initiative that is something that's around for a long time.
You hear stories, and other schools who have had NIL collectives or not. I know you're not a collective, but right. I mean, Texas Tech just announced a $2.5 million deal for football players on scholarship or walk-ons, and we know that there's other places as well. That's just one of the more recent. Do you envision being large enough to be able to help whoever you're with, Baylor or others, compete at that level?
Yeah, the stories of what's coming out around the country are everywhere, and they're varied. I think our approach, the fact that it's layered, the fact that there's more to it than just a single way of looking at NIL dollars or even community engagement, gives us an advantage. It took some time, but I think that we've got more here to invest in. So I think we're a more attractive option for donors or businesses or people that want to participate. To me, it's sort of taking this idea of NIL and helping it kind of evolve a bit into something that is actually meaningful. So I hope that we will be able to do that.
So some of the NIL businesses, collectors, I get confused myself, they were set up and like they are just coming off like brand new.
Yeah.
You are established.
That's right.
Is that part of the advantage as well?
That's probably what I would define, the main thing that I would use to define us as not a collective. The reason we're not a collective is because it wasn't something that was set up for the purposes of NIL. This is just an extension of the programming that we're already doing in the community. We're now shifting and applying and targeting student athletes, and this allows us to do that. So it's really not a collective in that sense. What this is just a student athlete development program that we're thrilled to kind of be able to do right here at Baylor.
Yeah, if I had to draw, like if somebody said draw what you think the like representation or shape of a collective is, it would just be a bunch of squiggly lines, like just running around, because we don't know.
Right.
But you guys kind of already have a structure and a shape, so you don't have to be this just ball of squiggly lines that people can figure out.
That's right.
On.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that most donor, even if a donor wants to see the program be able to succeed in this, I don't think they want to see that happen at the expense of student athletes. And I'm not saying that's what other collectives and other people are doing. I'm just saying that we wanted to make sure that everything we were doing, even with NIL, was something that was done with the benefit of the student athlete. And I think that if we focus on that and we do it well, that's going to come around full circle and benefit the program in ways that these a bit more thrown together collectives won't have the function to be able to do.
Will you be setting up appearances? Will you be setting up student athletes at restaurants or autograph type opportunities? Is that something that you're capable of doing?
Yes, we are. And I would even love, as this develops, to find ways to engage the fan base, for people to be able to connect with student athletes in ways that weren't possible before. So we've just launched today. We've got a lot of really good ideas on the board, some stuff that we're going to be rolling out. But yeah, all of those kind of things that you understand and hear about ways that student athletes can engage in NIL activities are things that we'll be able to do. You
also, I've learned a little bit about you along the way, the last just a couple of days or so. You have also given back quite a bit to minority ownership, correct? Helping companies get off the ground and helping them be successful as well?
That's right. When this organization was established, it was really important to the founders to say, we don't want to just help high growth companies or tech companies start here in Waco. We want to invest in all entrepreneurs in Waco. So, to do that, you really have to focus on where the gaps are, on where even historically there's been some people that haven't had access to the kinds of things you need to start a successful business, from capital to marketing expertise to any type of advisory that is needed. So we do a lot of focus on that. I would say, especially coming out of COVID, I would say about 80% of the businesses that we work with are minority or women owned, and they're here in Waco, and they're small businesses, they're quality of life businesses, Main Street businesses, as well as the higher tech, more high growth focused ones. We do that as well, but a big part of what we do and always will do is on that side.
The student athletes, I'm sure, all have their own goals, and if it's not the professional level, which is a very, like what, Paul, 1% or so that end up having a chance to play at the next level in the NFL and football. Let's say someone wants to be involved in the restaurant business, and that's truly their passion for whatever reason, from their family or just something that is that also where you take them step by step, along with anybody else, step by step on how to create that and handle all that?
100%.
Okay.
And we can't possibly house all the expertise needed for every type of business, but that's why we're a partner organization, and we've got amazing restaurants here locally that have done amazing things that we could connect them to. Nobody builds a business in a vacuum. I don't care if you're Jeff Bezos or you're a student athlete who's never done it. You need people around you, good people that have the expertise that you don't have or the resources that you don't have. So yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing that we want to do.
You mentioned the fashion business. I think everyone might have a problem problem or concern about student athletes who get too much too early. Not that they don't earn it, because we've been over that. But let's say they get too much too early. Then there are taxes, and there's a lot of the pull. Right. Did you experience that yourself when you were in the Is that kind of what you mentioned, that you didn't, sometimes your mind was a blur?
Oh, 100%. And I made almost every mistake that a young person who comes into resource can make, and even understanding, just having a strategy around how you build a team around yourself of advisors, of friends, of financial advisors, wealth management advisors, business advisors. These are all different than agents that are actually out there getting you new work. You have to understand that it takes work. It takes work to develop a team. I made the mistake a lot of times of just thinking that the professional across the table from me had my best interest in mind. And unfortunately, that's not the real world, and they don't. And I got taken advantage of in ways, but then I also learned, and I also made good, smart decisions down the line. And I would say I'm an entrepreneur, became an entrepreneur, and I'm doing what I'm doing today because I discovered some of my passion for entrepreneurship through that process.
By the way, a Startup Waco located on Austin Avenue, just around the corner from us. It made it easy to get you over here. How many people are a part of Startup Waco?
So we have a broad membership community of businesses, of over close to 500 businesses. We also operate a co-working space, which is just sort of our office right there on Austin Avenue, and we have 37 companies that office out of there. Some of them are solopreneurs, some of them are remote workers, some of them have 2 or 3. There. So, really we're a program organization. We run that space, but there are other amazing co-working spaces in Waco. So we love seeing that come up.
Final thing, when people go to startupwaco.com, is there going to be a drop-down box for this specific, what you've been announcing or what you announced today?
There absolutely will. In fact, today we're launching the GXG Exchange. There's its own website, gxgexchange.org, but coming soon on Startup Waco's website, we're sort of creating an initiative called Startup Athletics, which is going to house all of these different programs and things that we do towards student athlete development broadly.
And GXG, I saw this on the site, is green and gold. That's pretty simple. Thank you, Jon. Appreciate the
Guys, it's a
insight.
real pleasure.
Appreciate you. Congratulations. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Jon Passavant, CEO of Startup Waco. Go to startupwaco.com if you want more information. We discuss NIL quite a bit. You hear about things like collectives or whatever. It's the first time I think we've had Open Doors on, and they're a part of Baylor starting in about a week as well. It is good to kind of get the insight on it. Sic'Em 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lake